Hi, this is Janet Swanson, and you are listening to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. Today, I just want to encourage you, inspire you, and give you a reason to keep going. As you're listening to this podcast, I pray that the Holy Spirit will open up your ears to hear Him, open up your eyes to see Him, and open up your heart to know Him. I pray that 2021 will find you flowing in the year of God's favor over your life. I pray that healing will come to your heart speedily, and I pray that this podcast will be a blessing to you. Welcome to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. Here we are in a new year, 2021, and we made it. Yay! And I have a very, very special guest with me today, and she is going to share her story of hope from hopelessness. And before we get into her story, I want to tell you a little bit about this young lady that has just touched my life. I see her as just a young, beautiful woman who has been through so much, but has been searching for peace and searching for answers, and she found it in Jesus. And when she started coming to church here, I saw this hunger in her eyes, and I was immediately attracted to her. And it was like, this girl could be my daughter, like my daughter in the Lord. And I just fell in love with her. She even looks like me. We call each other our twins all the time, don't we, Miranda?
Yes. Hey guys, how are y'all?
This is Miranda Marsh. So, Miranda, you have an incredible story, a story of trauma, and I actually wrote down the definition of trauma, so I just want to read that out. In the dictionary, it says trauma is an experience. So when you think about trauma, it's not just something that happens to us, it's something that we literally experience that causes injury to us physically or emotionally or psychologically. And I had a Christian counselor give me another definition of trauma, and it says it's anything that happens to you that compromises your values and beliefs and causes you pain, grief, or loss. So today I want to tell you, this girl was traumatized at a very young age because she experienced a great loss. And she is going to tell us a little bit about that story. Miranda, welcome to One Voice Podcast. I thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm so glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, how old are you now?
Okay. Hey guys. Thank you, Janet. Thank you for this podcast and One Voice. Thank you for allowing God to work through you through this ministry. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share my story and to share the testimony that I have that God has done through my life. It has been trauma. And I love the definition the counselor gave you. Mm-hmm. It is something that you deal with and you experience. And it's not something that happened to you once. It's something that you carry along with you.
That's right.
So I hope to use my testimony that I've carried along with me and my trauma to share my story.
That's right.
With you guys today.
That's awesome. So how old are you now?
Sorry.
You're 23.
I'm
3. Oh. That's okay.
Yes, I'm 24. I had to think about it.
I know. I was thinking, is she 23 or 24?
No, I'm definitely 24. I had to think about it. I don't want to be 25 yet, so I'm 24.
That's right. And you're from?
I'm from Metter,
Georgia.
Yeah, Statesboro's 2 interstates exit down. Exit down. I'm not going to say that.
Okay. 2 exits down. That's a hard word to say.
I know. I'm not going to say that.
2 blocks down the road.
Yeah. I'm actually a student at Georgia Southern, and so I'm back and forth to Statesboro. So God moved me here, and God moved me to this church, and I've been here, and I've actually just joined. I kicked that off in January, guys. So Crossroads Community Church, shout out.
I'm excited. Well, I know your story, and I didn't know it when you first came here, but we had a trauma in our own church where a very good friend of mine committed suicide, and her husband was on our praise team, and we were all traumatized by that. And through that, you came out and you began to talk to us and talk to the family, and nobody had no clue. And even your father had been coming to church here. None of us had no clue about your life or your family. So I just want you to share from your heart. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to start there.
Yeah.
So Father's Day this year, or this past year, 2020, quarantine and everything, I came to church with my father. And I came here, and that was the first Sunday, and I knew I was coming back. So as Janet was saying, the second Sunday that I came to Crossroads, the family was here. And they shared the story and asked the church to pray over them. And I couldn't believe it that God had picked me up, brought me to church once. And the second time that I'm physically in a church, oh my goodness, the purpose of my life, to share your testimony. You've been grieving, you've been dealing with your trauma alone, and I've just been trying to tug at your heart saying, hey, get in a physical church. I've been a member of an online church for 3 years, seeking and doing that with all the self-help and putting those two together, and I still didn't get answers. When I physically came to a church, and I encourage you guys to do that, don't let this pandemic and all the loneliness, don't do it alone. Come to the church.
Yes.
Be at the church. Have your trauma at the church. Yeah. That's where it needs to be. Right. So I'll share a little bit more about my story. I'm sorry, I don't want to get carried away.
Yeah, go ahead.
So after seeing that family and knowing that it kind of almost mimicked my trauma. I have 5 brothers and sisters, and they have a family of 4. So it pulled me back, and the Holy Spirit was like, this is what you need to do. You need to go talk to that family, and you don't have to tell them your whole story, but they need to know that somebody else experienced this. And
because you knew how they felt.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness, all I could think about was not then how they were feeling their pain, how they were going to feel the next year, and the next year, and I was just like, I've got to tell them that I've been there, so they don't feel alone. They don't feel like nobody understands, because I've been there. And so after me and my father went and ate lunch after church, I was so anxious and nervous. I couldn't even eat. I was like, can we please go back to the church? I was like, Daddy, if they're there, I'm going to talk to them. They don't know me. This is my second time at the church. I probably shouldn't do this, but I don't care. The Holy Spirit just led me. And they were outside. They were outside talking to Pastor Janet and Pastor Gary, and with their entire family, and nobody else was there. And that was God. Wow. God has impeccable timing, and He's just so wonderful. So I shared a little bit of my story with them. So a little bit about my story. Growing up, my mother suffered from bipolar disorder. That means you have high highs and low lows. So she was manic, and she would be up and just happy and perky, and then she would be really, really down. And she couldn't fluctuate between the two. So it was severe. It's not just, she said, she would yell at some of the kids or us for doing wrong. And we were like, oh, you're bipolar because your moods are changing drastically. No, it wasn't like that. It would be, days at a time where she would just be all in your face, up, up, up. And then she would be in the bed and be down. And that's hard to say, and that's hard for people to hear, but that's the truth. And,
it was either all or nothing.
Yeah, all or nothing.
There was no just medium.
Yeah, there's no.
It was either overkill or nothing at all.
Yeah, completely. So the bipolar, you're acting bipolar or quit being depressed. So everybody has their worldly definitions, and I don't have the correct definition, but I lived it. So don't toss the word around lightly.
How did that make you feel as a child? Did it make you insecure in any way, knowing that your mom was up one minute and down the next?
Yeah, well, so it wasn't, she shot herself when I was 15, but I didn't know how to deal with it, 12 and 13 and trying to figure out, what is going on? I see, I was staying the night with friends and, everybody's, something's whatever, but I didn't completely understand it. I was 15.
Because it was your normal.
Yeah, it was my normal, and I had my life going on. I was, a teenager, so, but I was still trying to deal with this at home, and, how can I help my mother? But I was frustrated because I didn't understand it. And that's where I learned the most, is that I can look back on that and say, hey, you didn't understand mental illness. You need to. Because I didn't know how to deal with it as a 15-year-old trying to save my mother when she was trying to save herself and her family of 7.
Well, hang on. A 15-year-old anyway is all wrapped up in their world.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because this is where you're trying to find out who you are, what you like, what you dislike, and you're needing more guidance and you're needing so much in your life. So I think that's normal for a 15-year-old for them not to understand because we're so wrapped up in our lives trying to figure things out. Listen, adolescence is hard.
Oh, yeah.
It is really, really hard. And so I think what you were going through and even in that time, you were experiencing trauma and didn't even realize it.
I had no idea. And I still look back and I'm like, okay, that's from my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, that's where
why
that
I
comes
did that from my childhood trauma.
Yeah. So just me. Okay, and there were 5 of us. So, I mean, when my mother would get depressed, and I was having to take care of myself and my 15-year-old problems and high school and deal with that and me, and then three other kids who had no clue. At least, I was the oldest. I have an older half sister, but she was older than me, so she wasn't there. So it was me and my 3 brothers and sisters. So that was trauma too. And then
trying to be strong for everybody.
Oh, I had to. And it was, and when my dad got home, when Daddy would come home from work, and Mom would be depressed, and she would have depressed episodes. It was hard. He would be frustrated because he didn't know how to deal with it because it was just a rising thing.
What does a depressed episode look like?
Okay, so my mother was a do-it-all mom. I mean, there were seven of us, so she didn't have an option. We had 2 washing machines, 1 dryer, 2 refrigerators, a freezer, and all that. So she cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner, got us ready for church on Sunday, but for school, had a snack when we got home at 3. She was a stay-at-home mother.
Yeah.
So that was a lot, but she'd done all that, and when she would have her depression episodes, when we'd get home from school, she would lay in bed with no TV on or nothing. Our snacks would be different that week. We wouldn't have French fries and chicken fingers and like a meal like we would have, go fix ramen noodles or a Pop-Tart. Like she was just distant. She was away from herself. But then when she wasn't on her normal, which was manic and busy and staying up, doing all those super mom things for 7 of us. She was down. The laundry piled up. She didn't have plans for supper, and that left all of us frustrated. It was hard for her to wake up in the morning to take us all to school. She lost hope. She was battling internally, and she didn't know. Why do I have these high highs and why do I have these low lows?
And she couldn't control it either.
And she couldn't ask for help. I couldn't save her. I didn't know.
Yeah.
She felt isolated and alone. And Daddy was frustrated. We were all frustrated. Mama, get up. We're going to be late for school. And she had no one to help her.
Wow.
So she just stayed in that habitual ups and downs, highs and lows. When she would be manic, I do want to go on to manic too.
Yeah.
So she would clean all of our rooms, or she would want to redecorate the house, or just jump from different things to try to make her happy, and would be very busy. But her lows were low, and we were frustrated too because we were like, what is going on?
Wow. So tell us about what happened the day that it happened the first time. You were 15 years old. What was happening in your day? Do you remember? Were you just going to school?
Completely. Yeah. I was in high school. Just a normal day. I was 15, so I couldn't drive yet.
Yeah.
And I was frustrated. I wish I could take that back because after that,
yeah.
I had to drive the kids to school every morning.
Yeah.
So she had dropped the twins off at the middle school and my younger brother off at the intermediate school, something like that, at his school. There were 3 separate places. She dropped me off last. And
could you tell there was something wrong?
Well, it was
off.
It was, of course, when you first wake up in the morning, you're in a rush, you're in a panic, but it wasn't like that this morning. Right. She wasn't in a panic. She wasn't in a hurry. It was it was a slow drive to my school. It was a faint, have a good day. It wasn't farewell, but it was quiet. Okay, so I was in a science class. I think I was in anatomy. And somebody called the classroom. I don't think they done it over the speakers. Somebody called the classroom and said, "Can you send Miranda to the office? She's going home." I was like, "Hey, y'all enjoyed class," telling my class members bye, because I was like, I'm getting out of school, happy as ever, making jokes with them, like, "I'm sorry y'all are here, like, I'm leaving, bye."
Wow.
And I think they had a test that day or something. I don't even know, but I was like, yes, saved by the bell. So when I walk out the door, smiling, I meet my principal and every other teacher that I had in the hallway, and we walk, and all I see is my half-sister's mother. So I was like, what's wrong with my father? Something happened with Daddy. Why is she here? Oh my goodness, if she's here, then where's my mom? She's taking care of my dad. Something happened with Daddy. But that was not the case. When I got to the door, my daddy's brother was there, and we got in the truck. Daddy wasn't there. I didn't know what was going on. Everybody was quiet. I was panicked. So coming into the hallways, so silent and just quiet that morning. And I left in a panic, and nobody would tell me what was going on. So when we got in the car, my brothers and sisters were in the car. My uncle, they had said that my mother had been in an accident. And I said, well, what's wrong? Is she okay? Is she alive? And they didn't answer. So I knew that something was wrong. And I was 15.
Yeah.
I mean, I would call her bipolar, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
So when they said it was her, it was my mother and not my father, I knew. And I thought she was dead. I didn't have no doubt in my mind, and I just, I didn't cry. My brothers and sisters were crying.
But you didn't cry.
No, I was just numb.
You were in shock.
I was numb. I was like,
yeah.
So,
very traumatizing
moment.
Yeah.
And then in the same spot where she left me, when I got back in the car.
Wow.
So when we're driving, they get a couple phone calls. They're trying to be quiet. My brothers and sisters are crying, and I can't even touch them. And I'm just sitting there, and we're on the way to the hospital. They told us that she had been airlifted to the hospital finally after a phone call. And they had her in they were airlifting her, and she was in neuro ICU. She was about to go into surgery. So she shot herself. So there were, when we got to Savannah, we just waited. And I was still, I don't think I had even cried yet. Like soft tears, but.
So now you're at the hospital, and you just have so many emotions.
Yeah, I'm just.
You're confused, mad.
Yeah, looking at everybody, and I just, I can't even grasp what's going on. Numb. I felt numb. But I was angry. I was 15, and I was like, I was trying to process that she wanted to leave us.
Yeah.
She wanted to take her, oh, you shot yourself. There's 5 of us crying in this room right now, and you,
right.
You couldn't do it no more.
Right.
You take your life. And that was the attitude that I had on it at 15 then.
Yeah.
It was a hate that came over me, and I didn't care if she even lived or not. I was like, well, if she wanted to be dead, then so be it.
Yeah.
Why are they having this surgery? She shot herself. Why are they trying to save her?
Right.
And so that's how I felt when she finally came out of surgery, then at 15. And when she finally came out of surgery, I'm her oldest daughter. So Daddy had went by himself, and that was a couple hours, but I knew that I was going first. So I didn't want to go, but I couldn't tell my daddy that that was the love of his life.
Right.
He was excited, so excited to bring me back. Well, for his time, and then to bring me back there.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell him anything that I was feeling.
Right.
Anything. So I went, and of course she was unconscious. But I stood at the foot of her bed, and Daddy's excited because Mommy's alive.
Right.
But all I could do was touch her feet, and all he could do was stay positive.
Right.
Tell your mama she's alive. She's done good. And I was just, I didn't feel the same way.
Right.
And I couldn't even get up there and hug her, and how he was like, your mama, she's here, she's alive. God's done a miracle. God saved her life.
Right, right.
God, she's here after she shot herself. Miranda, look. And I think I finally made my way up to her hand, and of course she doesn't look the same. And I just done it for him. I didn't want to be there. I was just like, and then I left shortly. It was a very quick, brief. He was excited to go get the other kids who couldn't wait.
Right.
To know that their mama was still there, but I didn't. I felt different at 15.
Right.
Because I had been dealing with her. I didn't understand her mental illness, but I had been dealing with that at 15, so I was frustrated, and then this.
You were trying to be strong for everybody.
On top of everything that I've been trying to help you and trying to do this and making sure all the laundry, on top of all that, now this.
Right.
Okay. I'll give them Tylenol. I'll give them, don't. And
do you think you experienced a little bit of abandonment and rejection?
I still suffer with that. I felt that she didn't want to be my mother anymore. You shot yourself, so you wanted to take your life, so you wanted to take you away from me. And I went through all the you don't want my wedding, you don't want to see me graduate, you don't want to see me have children, you don't want me.
Wow.
You don't want to be my mother. You don't want to be their mother.
Wow.
It was a lot of hate that had overcome my life at 15. And then,
so what happened after that?
So after that, I was a 15-year-old, and I was hurt, and I was shocked and trauma in the hospital. And we were there for, I don't know, it felt like months. But I finally got a Sudoku puzzle, and I just sat because I didn't have the feelings that everybody had felt. I didn't. I overlooked God's miracle that day, and the times that we were in the hospital. But so after that, fast forward a little bit. Mom comes home. Everybody's happy. I'm still an angry 15-year-old who, okay, what now? Trying to understand a little bit of the adult problems. Dad hasn't been at work. Nobody's been at home. What's next? What is our new? Now we have to take care of her.
Right.
And more responsibilities for me at 15. Take away my life, and that's how I felt at 15. So I hate to say it, but I hated her.
Yeah.
When she came home, I didn't have the hooray. I tried to stay away from home. I didn't speak to my mother for 2 years.
Wow.
And I didn't want to look at her, and all she needed was me. All she needed to know that was, hey, I'm here still, and I didn't mean to. All she wanted to do was tell me that. But I didn't for 2 years. She suffered the shame and the rejection. We're from a small town, a very small town, so everybody knew before. Right. Everybody knew about my mother before I knew about my mother.
Wow. So there was a lot of how do I tell people that my mom did this when I actually feel like,
the same way they do, that she's selfish.
Yeah.
I felt that way at 15.
Yeah.
I'm her daughter, and I feel like she's selfish too. And why are we praying for a woman? And I couldn't realize the miracle then.
right.
And that's a little deeper into my story. But why are we praying for her when she's selfish? Mm-hmm. I didn't attach the mental illness because I didn't understand it at 15.
Right.
Or 16 or 17 when my life's going on, and I couldn't even stand next to her when she came to my prom. Mm-hmm. I was almost disgusted when, not like that, but I was just like, more, everybody look at Miranda's mom who shot herself and lived. And, you know, and I knew how they felt because I felt that way then.
Right.
Because they did. She's got 5 kids. She's selfish. It's a surface level outtake on people who attempt suicide.
Wow.
And that's all it is surface. When on a deeper level, the miracle that God had performed in my life for me and my brothers and sisters and my father, and saved a woman who should have died. I should have been there. I should have been there for her healing and support, and I couldn't because of my trauma.
Yeah. Because you were traumatized. The whole family was.
Yeah, and how I processed it.
Yeah. Did you get any counseling at that time?
Oh.
From 15 to 17?
Well, so they tried to get me to go to counseling right at first, of course.
Yeah.
I think I sat in 2 of them, and I was so angry. And she would pick at me, and she was like, let's talk about the elephant in the corner.
Right.
And that scarred me for life, so I actually don't use that saying. And so I was angry that I was there, but then she would keep on picking and talking. And, of course, I would cry. But I didn't say anything to her. I didn't want to. I had felt differently how I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't have felt that way.
Right.
So I had nothing to say to her. So I stopped going. You know, the first couple months after she came home, it was just a blur. I don't really remember much. I don't remember where I stayed or what I wore to school. I don't remember being in class when I went back to school. So what I faced when I did go back to school, and I immediately went back to school. It was 2 days. I wasn't trying to parade it around, but I wanted to get away from home. And then I went to school, and I was just, people wanted to know the story. They had questions. They were, I don't even remember.
Wow. So you said you didn't talk to her for 2 years after that. So what triggered you to talk to her? Was there some kind of forgiveness that happened?
Yeah, okay.
Or
So
understanding of something?
So I was 15, and I was growing, and I had to grow up really faster than I wanted to. So taking the kids to school, assuming all her responsibilities, and still living my life because since I did consume so many responsibilities, Daddy did trust me, and he allowed me to do more and have a later curfew than all the other kids. So I actually, I hung out with friends, and I'd done that. That was 16, and I started to drive. So that was freedom, fresh air. Yes. Get to leave the house. And so I would do everything that I needed to do. And so late in the evening, Daddy said, go, hey, be with your friends. It was my free time. So of course I had a little more freedom than I should have.
Yeah.
And so 16, 17, I was growing up. I had my fun. I tried to get away. So 2.5, I say 2 years. I didn't speak to her for 2 years, but so on the 3rd year, I was graduating.
From high school?
Yes. So of course I had to spend a little bit more time with her. Mama, how, does it make it? So I actually would spend a little bit more time with her, getting ready for my senior pictures.
Yeah.
And I had to talk to her then. I needed her. And so our relationship was healing a little then. Still very distant, but growing. And then I went off. I wanted to get away. I knew I wanted to get away. So I went off. I'd applied to Georgia Southern and Valdosta, and I chose Valdosta. Take me 3 hours away from here.
Yeah.
Yes. So we were spending more time together. She was still my mother. And she took me to campus. We explored campus together. And I was like, yes, I want to get away. She's happy for me. So that was just, yes. Our relationship was growing. And It was better, but I wasn't there for her. So we were better, but I wasn't there for her. She was there for me still. After she shot herself, and after the shame and the guilt and the everything that she had to face every day, the scar, the way she looked different.
Wow. Did she ever talk about it to you?
It was.
Did she ever explain anything to you?
She tried to express how sorry she was. Every day. But it was hard for her to look at me too.
Wow.
She couldn't. I didn't realize it then because I didn't want to look at her, but she couldn't look at me. So when we had common ground about makeup and getting ready for senior pictures, and I think, okay, so I do remember a pivotal moment, my senior year, because she didn't pick out my dress for my junior year. I was still me, do it on my own. Yeah. My senior year, she took me prom dress shopping, and because I went by myself my junior year, but she was like, try this dress on, and I did, and I was like, I don't like it. And she was like, just trust me, get this one, because the one that I wanted, and we both dreamed about and went to get, they didn't have it. And I tried the dress on, and I was like, well, okay, get this one. Let's get it. If you think, I get it. So I trusted her, and I guess that's a pivotal moment, and I don't know why, but I said, okay, I'm going to go against what my mother says yes to, and I'm going to get what she says. So
that's good.
It was a pivotal moment, and things started changing from then. And she toured the campus with me, and she supported me. And so we grew closer. But
and you went to Valdosta at that time?
Yeah. Okay. So only for a short period of time. So take away the suicide attempt, she still dealt with her bipolar disorder even on a more extreme level. And I wasn't there to assume responsibilities and help in a way for our family.
Right.
So my father and her grew distant. She still struggled with it, and
did she take more medication too?
Oh yeah, she done. When she got out, she was in a facility for a while, but that was shortly after the gunshot wound. She was still going to counseling. She had always went to counseling, as long as I can remember. I mean, about 9 years old. I'm not real certain, but so I came back home. It was a phone call every evening. This is what happened today, or
so you were still trying to help everybody.
Yeah.
And be everybody's mother.
Yeah.
I guess.
Be all that from college. So I was like, I withdrew. I called and I said
it can be too heavy, too much.
I didn't even. I would get a phone call late at night, so I couldn't go to class the next morning. I was just, what are they doing without me? I'm 3 hours away. What are they doing without me? I've got to help. I've got to help them. So
did you find yourself wanting to fix them?
Oh yeah, fix everybody, fix this,
fix all the problems.
Yeah, let me
make everything right.
Yeah,
you don't want anything to be wrong, just everything to be right.
Yeah, let me come home so I can fix this.
Yeah,
or give the phone to your brother so I can fix this. Now give the phone back to your mama or my mama so I can fix this.
Right.
And I'll call Daddy when I get done talking to all y'all.
Right.
So I came home. I withdrew. And I packed everything that I could in my car, and I came home.
Wow. And that's part one.
Yeah.
Of your story. That is part one. You guys, I just want to bring a little bit of recognition of the pain of mental illness that it causes on a whole family, and the trauma that it leaves behind. But this has been my heart, Miranda. I'm so tired of everybody just overlooking it, sweeping it under the rug, pretending like it doesn't exist, or even judging it, making judgments about it, like, well, if I were there and I was there and I would do this and I would do that. And a lot of times you even judge yourself. Like, there's a lot of judgments that come on that. And that's where we need to be careful as a community. I want to talk to a community of people to be compassionate and understanding and to be there for people that are experiencing any kind of trauma, that it may be out of your normal, but this was Miranda's normal. And I want you to know that there is a lot of people that is suffering with this. And Miranda, did you know that in 2020, there were more suicide attempts and successes than ever? I don't know all the statistics yet, but even here in our town, I can think of 6 off the top of my head. And you may go through a lifetime knowing 1 or 2 people in a lifetime that that would have done that or that did do it. But I know 6 people right here
in the church.
1 year.
Yeah.
In 1 year. And it happened in our church, where we believe in miracles. We believe in the power of God flowing in our church. And we believe that God can heal and do anything. And the times that we prayed over her for her healing.
And his people are taking their lives.
Yes.
So that's why I'm glad that my story happened. And I'm ready to share the rest of it with you guys on the next episodes. But we need to break the stigma.
Yeah.
Take away this and quit pushing the elephant in the corner.
Yes.
And don't feel so obligated to say that you're not okay, and don't feel so judgy to hear it.
Yeah.
We live in this age of social media where people are putting their happiness on there because they want to act and think that their story and their life and what they're going through is just this beautiful picture, and it's not. So everybody says I'm okay because that's what society says. And now
Put your mask on, cover it up.
Yeah, cover it up, stay at home, isolate yourself. Don't tell me when I ask you, how are you doing? Don't say not good. I don't want to hear that. I want to ask you because, hey, I'm kind of checking on you. They don't want to hear the truth. When we need to understand mental illness and understand that suicide is thought about.
Yeah.
And when people tell you, or when you ask people, how do they feel and how are they doing? When they say good, just take it and start talking about something else and change the subject. Notice. Get educated on mental illness and be aware. Sit and talk with people. If you know what you're going through and what you're hiding in your life from people, what you're putting on social media, but how long you're taking to edit it and change that and make it picture perfect and move this here and hide this and all this. That's what people are doing with their lives when they say, I'm good. How are you?
That's right.
So I think that
it's time to get real.
Yes.
And expose the darkness, because anything, the secrets, the darkness, the lies, all of that keeps you in bondage. It keeps you depressed, and it keeps you in a state of fight almost.
Of weakness. Well, a weakness for the devil to intrude.
Yes.
And when you stay in this habitual pattern of, I see all this fake stuff that people are posting on social media, and I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't really feel happy.
Yeah.
You get stuck in that.
Yeah.
I think they say the Psychology Society, but I think they say that if you stay, if you feel unsatisfied more than 2 weeks, then it's not normal. So people posting this on Facebook and the technological age that we're in, where Instagram and they're changing these filters, that's not real. But we see it, and we look at Facebook every day, So you see all this fake and you think that it's the truth, and it's not. So you feel discouraged about yourself and, well, I'm not happy, or I don't have this. I don't feel that way. Right. So you get stuck and isolated and depressed, and that's a habitual thing. And the devil comes in when you feel weak like that and negative, when God has created you and he loves you and he made you. You get lost and it gets dark.
Yeah.
But
gosh, I'm just so proud of you. I'm just so proud of you for breaking the silence, for coming out and saying, you know what, I want to share my story and hope that it will help somebody else. And already, Miranda, you're helping so many people. and your life, especially the family that was here in our church. And she also started helping me with Grief Share. It's a ministry we have here at the church. And she's been touching people's lives by her testimony about saying, hey, I get it. I know what it feels like to be traumatized. I know what it feels like to experience loss and the injury of that, the pain from that. I know what it feels like to feel abandoned.
I know what you're hiding. I know.
Yeah.
I know how you. Oh, I don't know, but I've experienced how you really feel.
Yeah.
How you. So.
Yeah. That
the
is so
truth, and I
awesome.
want to share that with people. I want to share how. And I haven't finished sharing yet, so please tune back in, guys.
Tune in next week for part 2 of Miranda's story, because her mom, when Miranda was 15, her mom attempted suicide but was unsuccessful. But we were going to find out in next week's episode that a few years later,
When I was 20.
When she was 20.
So 5 years later.
5 years later.
My mother actually attempted suicide and was successful.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in between for that, so please tune in, guys. I'm ready to
Yes.
share, and I want to share tools and how I've experienced and how I can help you. So if you really want to look at the people and say, I know I don't really feel good today, or this is what I'm going through, please tune back in, guys. This isolation and quarantine from 2020, start 2021 with this podcast and share it with somebody.
Yeah. And just tell people too, like, be honest with yourself. Listen, your voice is making a difference. And that's our whole slogan here is one voice makes a difference. You need to tell somebody. If you're being abused, then you need to tell somebody. If you've been raped, and
any
you've
kind
been
of trauma,
threatened,
guys,
any
share
kind of
it.
trauma,
It's ugly, but the world
Yes.
needs to see it. If we
Yes.
didn't know the story of Jesus, it's a story, guys.
and he went through so much trauma.
Yes, I mean, it is a story we learn, and we believe in God because we have a story. It is written. God's word is there, and it is truth. So tell your truth.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell your truth so it can be shared. And I love your ministry, and thank you, God, for blessing us with Janet to start this ministry. One Voice is, I'm passionate about it. I feel like everybody needs to share. It feels uncomfortable at first, so you have to make your way into it. But share.
It's what happened to us, it's part of our story. And I want to encourage you, just because something happens to you and you experience something doesn't mean that's who you are. Because I want you to know I was abused, I was sexually abused, I was traumatized.
Yeah, it's what you're famous for.
Yeah.
And I think there's a song or whatever that I love.
Yeah.
But use what you're famous for.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done to me, Janet. And you have helped me grow and for my spiritual maturity. And now I'm strong enough to say, hey, okay. And I love that I get to learn from you and use what I'm famous for now, because what you have been famous for it helps me every day to know that you've got to share your story.
Yes. And the Bible says when you confess those things, you're healed from it. And that's why I'm passionate about it, because when we stop covering up the dark secrets of
Thank God.
shame,
Yes.
we can finally get some healing from it. So
And
you guys,
thank God for healing Janet Swanson and allowing her story. And guys, if you haven't heard from that, start back over with these podcasts. Oh my goodness, it is an amazing thing.
Oh, thank you so much, Miranda. I love you so much. And
I love you. Thank you, guys.
thank y'all for joining with us today. And like I said, join with us next week for part 2 of a story of hope that came from hopelessness. So we find our hope in Christ Jesus, and you're going to find out how Miranda found her hope and how she went on with her life, and now she is spreading hope and good news. Thank you guys for joining. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to One Voice Makes a Difference. It is our prayer that through this episode, God has given you a new hope and inspiration to come out of darkness, break the silence, and tell somebody, so His light and healing power may begin working in you. If you would like to connect with Janet, visit her website at janetswanson.org. Finally, and most importantly, if you are currently in crisis, please call the 24/7 crisis hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Don't hesitate. Your voice and your life matters.